Are you going to rethink these plans to force all schools to become academies?
No, the vision as set out in the white paper is for all schools to become academies by 2022, and that's the vision we intend to proceed with. This is about ensuring we have good schools in every part of the country and in every local authority area, because good schools that become academies can spread that best practice to underperforming schools in their area, and underperforming schools get strong sponsors to improve the quality of education. It's all about improving the quality of schools, so when a parent drops off their child at the school gates, they can be confident that the school they're going to is of a high quality.
Right, so you're not going to listen to the strength of feeling within your own party, and from fairly elevated levels, Tim Lawton, a colleague who was in the Education Department, who says Conservatives should be allowing schools choice rather than imposing a compulsory and arbitrary line on them. He agrees with academies in principle, but not this compulsion.
We are listening. We are talking to colleagues in the House of Commons. We're talking to local authorities. We're talking to the teaching profession. We want schools to have greater flexibility and choice in how they become academies, whether they form multi-academy trusts or whether they stand alone as academies. That's the vision. But it's very important. We're talking about a period of 6 years, and we have, as a government, to know where we're going to be in 6 years' time, when increasing numbers of local authorities have 80, 90% of their schools as academies. And we have to say what's going to be the position in 6 years. But we have 6 years. And as I say again, this is about giving professionals control of their schools so they can raise standards of reading, raise standards of math, raise academic standards and improve behaviour. And it's working. There are 350,000 pupils today in schools that are sponsored academies that are now good or outstanding. Those schools were underperforming, now they're not.
Natalie Bennett, does the party have a mandate, the government have a mandate to do this? 6 years is a fairly long timeline.
Well, obviously not, because of course we've just been talking about the election and there was no word of this plan in the Tory party manifesto, in the Tory party plans they announced during the election. And more broadly, what we're seeing really is this is a further privatisation, a taking of public assets, putting them into public hands, taking them away from the control of local communities. I mean, the Green Party, we believe that all schools should be under local democratic control. Those are local community assets, and that's where the control should be. We want to get rid of free schools and academies. But, you know, also looking at the evidence of this, there is simply not the evidence to say that academisation in itself improves standards. And more than that, we think about there are schools around the country that over recent years have actually fought off academisation. They've fought a battle. They've said, parents, local communities said, we don't want to be academised, and now the government is imposing it on those communities without any sort of consultation, without any democratic mandate at all.
And many Tory MPs are echoing those sentiments. I mean, Graham Brady, the 1922 chairman, for example, says academies have little accountability or parental involvement. You haven't convinced some of your most senior MPs of this policy.
There's greater accountability over academies
so
than there is of
wrong.
local... On that issue, yes, he is. There's greater accountability to regional schools commissions. We take very swift action when schools that are academies underperform, whereas there are many examples of underperforming schools under local authorities that stay in special measures, that stay as underperforming schools year after year after year. That cannot happen with the academies programme, because we intervene very swiftly to move academies from underperforming trusts and transfer them to better performing, stronger sponsors.
Let's have a look at the strength of feeling. We've got 13 Tory MPs who are against this compulsion element of academisation. Not against academies, they just don't want to be forced. It's not a very Conservative thing to do, they would argue. But we've also got leading Tory councillors who've expressed frustration and anger. They're calling on you and Nicky Morgan to rethink the policy. Melinda Tilley, we talked about her yesterday, the Cabinet Member for Education for Oxfordshire County Council. I feel really angry. If it's not broke, don't fix it. Don't force schools. Roy Perry, Tory leader of Hampshire County Council, urging the government to focus on dealing with schools where there are problems, not when they're performing well.
Well, the schools that are performing well have a duty not just to sit as isolated islands, happy that they're performing well. We need to take that expertise of those strong leaders, those strong head teachers, and spread it to those underperforming schools. Even in authorities like Hampshire, strong authorities, a quarter of their secondary schools are not good or outstanding. That's unacceptable as far as we're concerned.
But it's not the school who's outstanding's fault either.
No, but we want them to help, to be part of the system, to collaborate with other schools, to make sure that every single school in that local authority area is a high-performing school. That's what this is all about.
You failed to sell this policy, that it came out of the blue and there is an awful lot of Tory strength of feeling against it.
Well, that's my fault. I need to do more. We need to do more to sell the policy, to make the case to colleagues. But the vision is very clear. It's about ensuring that there are no underperforming schools in our system. And that's what parents want. They want to be sure that the school they send their children to is a high-performing school, not one that's been in special measures or is underperforming year after year.
But we're talking about schools that are outstanding that you're trying to force this policy.
They need to help us to raise standards in the other
to Natalie Bennett, though, I mean, you are in danger, Tristram Hunt says, the Shadow Education Secretary, of dragging education back to the 1970s, of not providing choice to parents. I mean, the whole point of the Academy programme under Labour, as they would see it, was to give parents a choice of schools. And you want to take them all back under local authority control.
Well, the problem with the idea of choice is the idea that involves schools competing against each other, seeking the pupils that are going to give them the best results. And one of the big problems we've seen with free schools and academies is cherry-picking of pupils, and pushing out of pupils who they expect are not going to perform.
How have academies been able to cherry-pick?
We've seen lots of cases around the country where you look at the number of percentage of pupils on free school meals in academies is much lower than you find in neighbouring schools that aren't academies.
But the local secondary school in my area, which has become an academy, takes from the same catchment area it did before when it was under local authority control.
But the problem is what we have here is a whole philosophy of education based on schools competing against each other, trying to get the absolute best, not for every pupil, but the best for themselves, the pupils they have in that school. What we want to do and what we want to see, as we saw in Brighton and Hove when the Green Council was in control of the council, was getting schools to cooperate, to coordinate together to get the best possible result for every pupil in the whole area. And that's what should be the foundation of education.
Is this actually going to be in the Queen's speech? I mean, we're reading reports today that this is just not going to be a piece of legislation because it's caused so much uproar on the Tory benches.
But we never say what's going to be in the Queen's speech until the Queen's speech, and I can't break that convention. We are pressing ahead with the vision set out in the white paper.
That implies that you are.
And, well, we're pressing ahead with the vision. That's, we don't, announce in advance what's in the Queen's speech. But let me just take you to Portsmouth, Charter Academy in Portsmouth. That was an underperforming school. Fewer than half of the children at that school were getting 5 GCSEs. ARC, a very successful academy chain, took that school over. Now nearly 3/4 of children are getting 5 good GCSEs or more at that school. It's transformed itself.
Could you look at an exception for rural schools that are doing brilliantly, that they perhaps don't want to be landed with the extra burden of trying to help other underperforming schools? Could there be an exception for those?
Well, rural schools actually have a better chance of survival under a multi-academy trust model than if they remain with the local authority, because they can share back offices, they share heads, they can cut costs to ensure that small rural school is viable.
So is that no exception then for them being forced to academise?
No, we want all schools to become academies by 2022, which is 6 years' time from now.
Thank you very much.
Why wasn't it in the Tory manifesto?
Well, we set out in the manifesto that we want the academisation process to continue.
Right.
But we've had
you
to
didn't
look
say you would make it compulsory.
Well, we've had to look 6 years ahead. What would be the position in 6 years? We've got authorities like Bournemouth and Bromley, where 87% of all schools today are academies. Where are we going to be in 5 or 6 years' time?
But you must have known that when you were drawing up the manifesto.
Well, the way the manifesto was worded, we would say we're going to continue with the academisation process, and that's precisely what we're doing.
All right.
Thank you.